Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for being here today for the Innovation Iowa panel discussion and magazine unveiling. My name is Chris Konetsky, and I'm the group publisher for BPC, which publishes Business Record and DSM magazine. For many years, this event has been focused on recognizing the Innovation Leader and Entrepreneur of the Year honorees, and we'll be doing that again today, as well as unveiling the magazine, which you'll all be getting a copy of after the program today. But this year, we want to take a little bit of a new approach to celebrating innovation in the state and to help foster discussion about the future of innovation across Iowa while taking a deeper look at the wider innovation ecosystem that is required to foster an entrepreneurial activity and ultimately the economic growth that we all need to continue growing our businesses in the state. My co-moderator today, Sarah Dean, has put together an excellent panel today that's going to help us explore that topic, and that conversation, of course, will just be the appetizer, because after the event, we're going to be handing out the 2023 Innovation Magazine, which has been reimagined to reflect and highlight the diverse parts of the ecosystem. I'm excited for today's discussion, and I can't wait for you to dig into the publication after the event. But before we do both, we also want to celebrate our 2 award winners today and recognize the supporters who are helping power today's important discussion. Today's event wouldn't be possible without our sponsors and our supporters. Our presenting sponsor for the event and magazine has been providing personal insurance services to clients for over 90 years. Formerly recognized as American Enterprise, the newly branded Wellaby has seen tremendous growth in these past 90 years. But through its transformation, Wellaby has always continued to maintain their principal foundation for caring for their customers. Please help give a warm, oh boy, hey, that came out great. Please give a warm welcome to Dave Keith, the president of Insurance Solutions for Wellaby.
Hello and welcome, everybody. My name is Dave Keith, and I'm president of Insurance Solutions Group. It's just Insurance Solutions at Wellaby. We're formerly known as American Enterprise Group. Some of you may know Tom Swank. He's our current CEO and chairman of the board. I'm humbled and honored to be taking over as CEO as Tom retires at the end of this year. Since many of you may not know who Wellaby is, I want to take a few moments just to give you a little background. While Wellaby is a new name, we are not a new company. We were founded by Watson Powell Sr. in 1929 as American Republican Insurance. That's the name that most people in West Des Moines recognize. From the beginning, our company was dedicated to doing what is right for our customers. As you can imagine, 1929 was a tough time to start a business, but through sound financial management, the young company survived and thrived, actually. Through the Great Depression. In fact, it was just 6 months after the Great Depression started, we opened our doors. Mr. Powell's vision was about creating a company founded on the principle of caring. While we have seen tremendous growth and change over the years, that same caring attitude exists today and will continue to carry on into the next century as we unify under our brand Wellaby. We like to say that we are in a people helping people business, and our entire team is dedicated to being here for our customers. That's actually where the name Wellaby comes from the phrase, "We'll always be." We'll always be here for our customers, fulfilling our promises and helping them be well. This has been true since we opened the doors for business, and it will always remain the same. At Wellaby, we understand the importance of business to embrace change and encourage our teams to think differently and challenge the status quo. I'm sure that's why many of you are here. This has pushed boundaries in support of our growth and transformed our organization to be better for the future in an increasingly connected world. And that's why we are so excited to support this event. On a personal note, I believe that innovation lives on the edges. It is usually based on an idea or a collection of ideas that is brought forth by those who seek to be different Innovators, aren't interested in change. They're interested in impact. To an innovator, failure is a successful discovery of something that doesn't work. Let me just repeat that. To an innovator, failure is a successful discovery to something that doesn't work. And I'm grateful to work for a company that is committed to leveraging innovation to generate long-term business and customer value. I'm also grateful to work in this community and the great state of Iowa. One of the reasons we've been successful is the business climate in Des Moines and in Iowa have allowed our company to thrive, probably just as many as yours. From a highly talented workforce and cooperation of the business leaders and lawmakers, Iowa is a business-friendly state that's committed to supporting innovation and evolving into the future. I want to give thanks to the Business Record and their team for bringing us all together today to discuss innovation in Iowa. And thank you again for all joining us.
Thanks again to the WellBe team for helping sponsor today. A perfect example of the corporate part of the innovation ecosystem, and that'll be something we'll be talking a little bit more about later today. Touted as Iowa's largest law firm supporting sponsor, NYMaster has experienced a century of growth, success, and continual adaptation while serving their clients since 1918. NYMaster provides multifaceted expertise for their clients with a dedication to excellence and ethics. With us today is Ryan Carter, attorney and head of intellectual property for NYMaster. Please welcome Ryan to the stage.
Well, good morning, everybody. Thank you, Chris, for the introduction. My name is Ryan Carter. I am a patent and trademark attorney at NYMaster Law Firm. And NYMaster is once again very honored to sponsor the Innovation Iowa event. The magazine has become a great annual snapshot of the state of innovation in Iowa. And we're proud to have been a part of this event for the past 6 years. I started during dinner or during lunch today, but I can't wait to dive deeper into the magazine and enjoy all the stories of innovation that are always so vividly chronicled in the publication, from funding and entrepreneurship to corporate innovation and profiles of this year's innovation leaders. We're also excited that in this year's publication, my partner and colleague Todd Van Tomey has an article that discusses the relationship between patent application filings and innovation. Todd also shares some thoughts in his article from some guests on NYMaster's recently launched podcast called On Intellectual Property. And I just will put in a plug for that. This podcast that we recently launched, done by our own Jeff Hardy, does a fantastic job of talking about all things intellectual property. So if you have any interest, I encourage you to check out the podcast. I am also looking forward to today's panel discussion featuring key members of our innovation community. I know it will be chock full of insights and perspectives, and I thank all the panelists in advance for all the expertise that they're going to share with the room today. As Iowa's largest law firm, NYMaster's nearly 90 attorneys, see Iowa's spirit of innovation firsthand from our offices in Des Moines, Ames, and Cedar Rapids. With more than 70 practice areas, NYMaster has attorneys with expertise in all areas of the law, including corporate structure, capital raising, intellectual property protection, tax planning, employee benefits, labor and employment law, government relations, and litigation. Every day, we're working with visionaries seeking to protect their ideas, grow their businesses, and solve some of society's most challenging problems. We are proud that our cutting-edge legal approach, positive legal approach, has helped businesses and innovators of all sizes succeed inside and outside the state of Iowa. Lastly, thank you to everyone here today and all you do to positively impact Iowa's innovation ecosystem. You all help advance all of the innovation throughout the state of Iowa, and we greatly thank you. So thank you.
Hello, everyone. I'm Susanna DeBaca. I'm the CEO of Business Publications Corporation. Delighted to see you all. And I can't believe nobody made any construction jokes here today yet. So at any rate, I'm happy to see that you all made it and found a place to park and are enjoying a taco. It is my pleasure to recognize our 2023 Innovation Leader Award sponsor, Corteva Agrisciences. As the only major agri-science company completely dedicated to agriculture, Corteva continues to harness the brightest minds, institutional knowledge, and diverse resources to move our world forward. And they continue to innovate and grow what matters. Here with us to introduce our 2023 Innovation Leader Award, which honors a company or an institution, is Tom Green, Senior Director of External Innovation Investment and R&D for Corteva. Tom?
Well, it's an honor to be here. And like the speakers just before me, I just want to say thank you to Iowa Innovation, this group, and supporting innovation in Iowa. It's never been a more important time for us as we think about innovation. As Susanna shared, Corteva Agrisciences, you may or may not know us. We are a global pure play agricultural organization, really bringing a full suite of solutions for our growers. We have a long history of innovation in the state of Iowa. We have a global business center just north of here in Johnson, Iowa, where we've been conducting innovation research, for 100 years plus, starting in the early days of hybrid development to, engineering, technologies around germplasm development, to traits, to next generation technologies like genome editing, where we are working incredibly hard to bring innovations that will help our growers be successful. Again, at Corteva, we're laser focused on discovery and development of solutions that will help our growers drive the most profitable acre in the most sustainable way for us as an organization. As we think about agriculture and our food systems today, it's never been a more challenging time. As we think about the protein challenge ahead of us to meet a growing population, as we think about the climate challenges that we see on an annual basis, and I was at a demo day last week in Calgary, and we talked about just how many intense environmental events we've had over the last 4 to 5 years, more wind events impacting our growers. And again, as we think about environmental challenges our growers are seeing today, from having, to drive more sustainable operations, I would say innovation has never been more important to us as an organization, but also to our growers and their ability to drive profitable operations. And again, I think for us to meet the challenges ahead, to drive a more sustainable and productive food system, we all need to innovate at all levels. And again, it's an honor to be here to recognize, again, innovation in Iowa. It's an honor for Corteva to be part of this community from an innovation standpoint. And we're excited to share the award today to the winner. So with that, we're going to move on to the recognition. Yes. All right. So it's my great honor, again, as a sponsor of the Innovation Award, to recognize our winner, Color Biotics. With more than 25 years of experience, the Ames-based manufacturing company Color Biotics has consistently been at the forefront of innovation in a variety of areas, with a focus on providing environmentally conscious solutions. Their products are safe for people, plants, and animals alike. One of their mainstay products is an eco-friendly mulch colorant that not only offers the largest color palette in the industry, but also is safe for children and pests, and offers a high degree of durability and cost effectiveness. More recently, Color Biotics introduced several soy-based products. All right, good for Iowa. I love soybeans, that are revolutionizing the asphalt industry. Biomag Topical Plus is a spray-on solution that reverses the effects of asphalt aging and can extend the life of the pavement for up to 5 years. This fast-working product sets up so quickly that vehicles can come back on the road in as little as 2 hours. Pretty amazing. Another product in their asphalt line, Biomag Easy Pave, uses a soybean oil-based solution to take recycled asphalt pavement and turn it into fast-curing, durable product for low-traffic areas. Its ease of use makes it more affordable, makes it a more affordable solution than regular hot asphalt. Color Biotics Vice President Kent Rotert, I hope I pronounced it right, told the Business Record, our ability to beat the competitors in product performance while also being 100% USDA biopreferred positions Color Biotics asphalt business perfectly for the future. And when you pair unmatched product performance with a team of employees who continue to push that envelope, the performance envelope even further, our growth potential is exponential. So with that, I'm very proud to welcome our award winner, and please join me in a round of applause for really an innovative concept, and thank you.
Thank you very much. It's an honor to receive this award. We will continue to innovate, just like the past winners that have been up here before me are continuing to innovate. My team that is here and the team that is not here and myself want to thank you very much for putting us as the winner this year in this award. Environmentally friendly products is key to our business, and we hopefully key to the world as well. It takes a lot of pride for us to know that what we're putting back into our products are products that you can literally use every day and not be concerned about your health. Pavement is one of the largest products in the world that is being put down on roadways everywhere. Knowing that we're putting an environmentally friendly product back into that road is something that we take a lot of pride in from that standpoint. He talked about a recycled product. Recycled products commonly only go back into the roadways at 20%. We're putting recycled products back in the roadway at 100%. That is a big difference and much more environmentally friendly for the world to come. So we hope we continue to develop products that will fit the environments that we're in and the world to come after us. And thank you again for voting us as the winner of this year's award. Thank you.
We had the award, and here it is. Yay! Thank you to Corteva, and congratulations again, Kent, and to Color Biotics. So it is now my pleasure to introduce our 2023 Innovation Entrepreneur Award, which honors an individual for their achievements in innovation. And this year's honoree is Jeff Reed. Oh, you got a woohoo. I know, exciting. Jeff says that he has a passion for creativity and is always pushing boundaries to find innovative solutions to complex problems. Reed, the winner of this 2023 Innovation Entrepreneur Award, is a longtime entrepreneur and is the founder and CEO of Momentum Studio, a strategy and innovation consulting company. He's also an owner of AR Workshop, an art studio in Ankeny, and has been part of numerous other startup businesses over the years. His long history in the industry and his track record of innovation make him a worthy recipient of this award. In addition to his operating background, Reed sees great potential in innovation consulting, but says working closely with clients to achieve results is key. He told the Business Record, overall, Opportunities for growth in the innovation consulting industry are best realized through collaboration and partnership. By working closely with clients and other industry leaders, we can identify opportunities for growth and innovation, establish best practices and standards, and create value for all stakeholders involved. Others have taken notice of Reed's particular set of skills. Liesl Siebert of the IDEA Center for Rural Revitalization wrote of Reed, "Jeff really listens to people, but he doesn't stop there. He transforms those conversations into action and strategic steps forward to develop new processes and solutions to systemic problems." Christy Voleski with the Iowa Department of Education wrote, "Jeff brings energy and enthusiasm to innovative approaches to education and industry interaction with youth. He works tirelessly to enhance and engage student learning around entrepreneurship with an energetic approach that both encourages and inspires students to achieve more." And isn't that in part what innovation is all about? Working together and inspiring youth for our future. The Business Record is proud to announce Jeff Reed, or to recognize Jeff Reed as the 2023 Innovation Entrepreneur of the Year. So come on up. And here is your award.
Well, thank you, first off. Thanks for the shout out, the woo. So I'll be honest, it's taken me a lot to think about what to say. Usually I'm not speechless. My wife can attest to that. But today there's a couple badges of honor that I wear very near and dear. One is being an entrepreneur, right? It's something that takes resiliency, it takes grit, it takes just natural curiosity. But it's something that you don't have to start your business to be, right? It lives within our organizations as entrepreneurs, and it's something that we see everywhere. But it's kind of cool to be up here to represent what being an entrepreneur means. You know, the dream weavers, the people who are creatives that have ideas. And being an entrepreneur is often more than just profit and loss. It's really about collaboration, and it's about creating ideas and positive change in the world. I'd say the other piece that I hold near and dear is just innovation. I think innovation at times can be a wonderful thing and celebrated. Other times, are we really innovating and challenging ourselves to ask those questions? From my perspective, we really land on two pieces, and I would challenge everyone today. There's visionary innovation, and then there's reactionary innovation. Both are great, but visionary innovation is that of which really drives change. Reactionary innovation is one that follows change or follows someone else's vision. Again, both are wonderful in the environment, but innovation is something that I hold near and dear. It's something that probably one of the best things that I get to do is be a professional problem solver. That's all I do every single day. And my favorite organizations to work with are those in the social impact space, because they're real wicked challenges that are out there that affect people, that affect society, but they're things that we can truly change for the better. So with that, again, honored to be up here, Kent as well. And thank you so much for this award. So thank you.
Congratulations again to Jeff on today's award. We're going to have our panel and our moderator come up to the stage now as well. We've got a great number of things to discuss today, and Jeff set us up nicely there to talk about a couple different of the aspects of innovation. Sometimes when we talk about innovation, it can become a little bit murky. Are we talking about a small business? Are we talking about large businesses? Innovation from within, startup companies? Innovation can happen in a lot of different ways, and so I thought your remarks are perfectly teed up for our conversation today. Moderating today's panel with me is Sarah Dean. Sarah, can you give a big wave and let's give her a big round of applause? Sarah's one of our talented business record reporters. She's also our recently promoted to digital editor for the business record as well. She covers innovation and puts together our Innovation Iowa e-newsletter each and every week. Her work was recently recognized among our industry peers at AABP for an editorial excellence award. She received gold for her work in innovation. And this award is one that was a category where she was competing against reporters from all over the country that work at business journals. And it was for the breadth of her work in a specific area. And so she was competing across a variety of areas. So to have her on staff with us, we feel very fortunate. Let's give her an extra round of applause for that. We're very fortunate to be able to have a reporter that's dedicated to covering this topic. And Sarah was instrumental in putting together today's panel. I'm excited to see where we go today. So Sarah, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. This year's Innovation Iowa magazine and today's conversation are driven by the idea of an entrepreneurial or innovation ecosystem, a word you've heard a couple times already, and something some of you today might already be familiar with. On the cover of this year's magazine that's in front of you and throughout the magazine, you'll see a graphic depicting this model, and it's up on the screen as well. This lays out 5 core stakeholder groups: entrepreneurs, corporate, government, education, and risk capital. Each group contributes to the development and growth of entrepreneurship and innovation, whether you're looking at a single community or the entire state of Iowa. In reporting for the magazine this year, one of my biggest takeaways was that while this ecosystem model is a helpful framework for thinking about the relationships and infrastructure that make innovation possible, an ecosystem cannot have real impact if there is not also a united community at its core. Sources have shared with me how it's important to sometimes step away from that rigid structure and strategy to just let the resources work and allow people and organizations to put ideas into action. What innovation looks like is constantly being reinvented, and technology is always evolving, sometimes a little too quickly for me to keep up with. However, that's why it's important that we have these conversations to understand the environment we're operating in. I'm joined today by 5 experienced and insightful panelists who represent one handful of the unique perspectives Iowa's ecosystem has to offer. We hope to have a broad and deep discussion, exploring what it means to create and lead an ecosystem, digging into the interconnectedness of the different stakeholders, and understanding the present and future of innovation in Iowa. Now let's meet our panelists and get the conversation started. With us, we have Eric Engelmann, General Partner of ISA Ventures, Nancy Mwirotsi, Executive Director of Pi 515, Lisa Shimkat, State Director, America's SBDC Iowa, Diana Wright, Startup Community Builder at the Greater Des Moines Partnership, and Ellen Willidson, Chief Innovation Officer at Holmes Murphy and Executive Sponsor of Broker Tech Ventures.
I want to give them a big round of applause as well. We should also know we're going to stay on the applause train for just a second. But Lisa's a Woman of Influence honoree this year, so we'll give you a little applause here. You're going to get more at Women of Influence, but welcome and thank you.
All right, and with that, we'll jump into our first question. I would like each of you to share how you view your own role in the innovation ecosystem and follow that with a word or short phrase that you think currently describes the state of innovation in Iowa and why. And Eric, we'll start with you.
Sure, thank you. I'm a startup company founder and a nonprofit founder that focuses on startup ecosystem development. And today I'm a capital allocator. I invest rich people's money in startups, and I hopefully do a good job of that. My role for the last 10 years has really been about filling the holes that are the Swiss cheese of Iowa's startup ecosystem. And at the moment, that happens to be capital allocation. So that's where I fit today.
Thank you. Nancy.
Yeah, thank you so much. I am a founder of a startup nonprofit. We innovate every day, especially in the education space for tech innovation. And I have great young people here with me today. Because of them, I am who I am today. We continue to create spaces for young people to thrive. We were recently at a great company, Wallaby, brought some students just to see what a company looks like. We believe in the map that you saw up there, because we believe a thriving ecosystem is dependent on a connected system, but we have to be the voice of young people.
Many times I introduce myself as overhead. By the laugh, some of you can relate. No, I'm just kidding. But as the state director, many times I have felt to, Jeff's point, we react. We see this is the environment and okay, what can we do to help that? We don't always in semi or quasi government get an opportunity to be proactive. And that was one thing that we really looked at over the last 8-9 years that I've been in this position, to look at how we help entrepreneurs, how we help those business owners grow and propel, and even take a step back and figure out, what do I need to do? So one of the things that we did come up with was the rural business innovators. We needed to be proactive and bring resources that we have, that we've talked about, to the rural areas, because each and every one of you, I can guarantee, know somebody out there that invented something, and when they talk about it, there's like, oh, well, yeah, I use it. Okay, would you like to build wealth? And so we wanted to have that conversation and take it to the next level. So some of the things that we want to do is get information out there, but then also be that resource connector to hopefully look at an ecosystem. We can be more proactive and find more solutions that way. That's what we want to try to do.
All right, so good afternoon, everyone. So I'm going to use a word that I don't often introduce myself, but I'm a gardener. Actually, this Sunday, I was planting a new garden at my house. And how I actually see the word ecosystem, I know we use it, sometimes we overuse it a lot, is that really it's kind of the entrepreneurial soil. And so my role in this community is just tending to that soil. Much of what Lisa kind of mentioned, certainly we have weeds. So we have obstacles that entrepreneurs need to kind of overcome. And there's a lot of people in this room that help make that possible. We have seeds, which are the entrepreneurs themselves, which is really critical, the most critical. And then we even have water, which I would even point to Eric and to a lot of different partners and resources that actually grow and really accelerate those businesses. So that's kind of where I see my role in this community. And then I think where we are today, as far as innovation in Iowa, one word that I would use is momentum. We know that technologies are going really fast and honestly, changing faster than we can really keep up in whatever role that we are. And so I think Iowa, we do have really rich soil for entrepreneurs here, but it's really about keeping up that momentum where sometimes we are and we do get comfortable. So that's something that I kind of keep a close eye on.
Hi. I would view my role in this ecosystem as really that of supporter. I've worked for Holmes Murphy for almost 30 years now. And about 4 years ago, we started a company called Broker Tech Ventures, which is really a convening platform to bring together insurance brokers and carriers from across the United States to support entrepreneurs in our field. And it's been really a great supportive community that we've developed. I'd like to give a shout out to John Jacobin, who's in the back. He is our executive director. If I have one word to describe the Iowa today, I think it would be dynamic. It's changing and it's so enjoyable to be part of this community.
Great, thank you so much. From some of the conversation that Jeff started with his remarks, I'd like to ask a question that I was thinking about that kind of gets at, how we get to innovation at the high level and how we lead in that, lead innovation. So I would like to ask your thoughts on how leaders approach being, like Jeff mentioned, the reactionary and the visionary, but how can leaders think about approaching innovation, regardless of what sector they might be in, and thinking about, is it transformative, is it incremental, and how do you balance and find those, both of those, and the right balance of those? Ellen, could we start with you?
Sure. I think that to be innovative, it doesn't need to be something that no one has ever thought of. There are very few things that no one has ever thought of, but is it really a need? And how can we solve that need in a practical manner?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, I would just say we are comfortable, and Jeff did talk about that being reactionary. And so I think it has to actually start with being results driven. It's something entrepreneurs are really good at because they're creating something and they have to see those results really fast. And so I think as innovation leaders, we need to kind of keep results in mind.
Lisa? I think a big thing that I just want to build on, I mean, there's so many great things that have been said. The next step is everyone in this room needs to say, okay, you know what? How can I help? Who do I need to put in front of who or whom? My mom's an English teacher. I apologize. But who do we need to connect so that we can get it to that next step? And that's what we need to do, is remove those barriers or those obstacles and create that new road.
So I'm a visionary entrepreneur. So I create solutions like every day. Anything you give me, I'm always about how do we fix that? I think, especially for girls, especially young people that are here today, it's really, really important to believe in yourself. It's not easy to be an entrepreneur. And let me tell you, in the morning you work, everything is going great. By afternoon, I'm sure all of you relate to this. You're like dead. And then by 3 o'clock, everything is right? So it's always about surrounding yourself with the right people, focus. The one thing I would say I appreciate about the state is there's some great group of people that are willing to help stand by you. So do not be afraid. I think everybody should just go for it.
Innovation seems to be something that happens for executives who have the spare time, apparently, to think about dreamy new visions. And I think that's probably not the optimal way to do it. A lot of the visionary innovation comes from something that was previously incremental. You address some problem and then realize, oh, there's a lot more room to run here and do it. I remember going to an innovation class at a hospital in Indiana, and they were, the senior vice president laying out all the visions for the amazing things their hospital could do. And they had these little tables, and one guy was the janitor and said, hey, I just want to put the bedpan replacement procedure on a laminated index card on a key ring, and this would change our world. And he got destroyed, in front of his peers and coworkers. It's like, hey, this could be a way to make the hospital more efficient, have it operate better, and engage a random rank and file employee on thinking bigger. And I was super disappointed in it. So I think the real innovation comes from recognizing that it can come from anywhere in the organization, and we need to support that.
Absolutely. So I would like to have Diana and Nancy. They are both a part of a group of Central Iowa stakeholders, a group of 12 that has been for, I think, about the last year participating in a program through the Massachusetts Institute of Technology called the Regional Entrepreneurship Acceleration Program, focused on a lot of different groups coming together to focus on how regions can accelerate their entrepreneurship efforts and strategy. So to kind of help give a little bit more context to this idea of the entrepreneurial ecosystem, I was hoping to call on Diana and Nancy to provide some background about how they've been involved with it and maybe a takeaway or two that they've had so far. Diana, could we start with you?
Yeah, we can start. So first off, I would like to say that there was a number of Midwest cities that actually got to be part of this program. It's a 2-year program ran by MIT, but keep in mind, it's actually a global program. So there is other participating countries that are part of it, including Hungary, Western Australia, which we just got to visit, which was really unique to see their ecosystem, but also the Dominican Republic and Brazil. And so there's something that MIT really kind of brings everyone together around, is that no one owns entrepreneurship. There's not one entity. Government doesn't own it. I don't own it here in my seat, but we really have to have actually many people part of the table. And so they start with 5 people. So as I know Sarah's mentioned, corporate, the entrepreneurs, government, risk capital, and then universities and education. So those are just 5 minimum, but there's actually a lot more people that are involved in a community to support entrepreneurs. And so a big takeaway that I've actually kind of experienced with the MIT faculty is I think a lot of them didn't know where Iowa was. Honestly, Des Moines and Ames are part of this group together. And something that over and over I keep seeing is that we do have the right foundations. We have the soil for entrepreneurs to actually thrive really well. We just need more seeds. We just need more entrepreneurs. And so when you go to a place like Boston, of course, it's all around and it's just part of that mindset. And so I think that's something that, they were applauding Iowa in how well we do have these resources that support entrepreneurship, it supports innovation. We just need more entrepreneurs. So if you're an entrepreneur in this room, I give you a lot of credit, and I would love to see how we can grow that. So that's a really big takeaway, and honestly, a huge compliment to everyone, whether you're part of the panel or whether you're part of this community and room. So Nancy, what do you got?
So I think mine was more of a discovery as well, that even though Des Moines and Ames were sisters and brothers, we have a very interesting ecosystem because they have the benefit of a college. Judy's here from the John Papa Jones Centers, but they have that. We don't have that. So their ecosystem could thrive in some places better than we do in Des Moines, especially when it comes to federal funding. And I think for us, it was a moment of discovery. What do we do in Des Moines to get more corporations engaged in helping us? We're such an insurance town. We don't like risks. How do we compete with our amazing brothers? Dave, I'm talking to you. How do we compete? You taking note. I think Tej, you should talk to David after this. How do we compete with entrepreneurs outside the state? Because when you talk to people from LA, or California, money is very accessible. Another discovery for us is we have some things that are working right. And I'm going to use Pi 515 as an example. I didn't even realize we were doing a couple of things right. It's how we've engaged corporations in terms of how we do class delivery. We work with John Deere Principal. We're planning to expand that even up to rural Iowa. They do the classes for us, which is a tech mentorship class. After that, we engage colleges because once the students get those classes, they get 3 college credits. Isn't that beautiful? And then after that, some of them are hired into IT apprentice. And then after that, we also engage somebody like Debbie. Debbie has been a great supporter of us. So we think we know the things that are working right. How do we identify those things and we double down and embrace it? Because if you look at data and what data says in terms of where we are in Des Moines and as well as Ames, we know that we really, really need to upskill a lot of people, and it's going to need all of us to work together. So, but I think it's been a great experience to visit with the rest and to see what they're working on. And I think we have a challenge on our head, but it's one we're taking on boldly because we know we have capacity to do that.
Just going to ask a quick follow-up question, Diana or Nancy. You mentioned some of the areas outside of the 5 broad categories, but I just wonder if you might highlight some other areas that maybe we should be thinking about too.
So part of the program, we do have to kind of think about different projects that we can do throughout 2 years and even longer after this program. And so an area that I'm sure we're going to discuss is one of them is early stage capital. And so I do want to say that something we've noticed there is that it's hard for entrepreneurs and startups to sometimes find that matching capital, even to complement the state's funding programs that are amazing. And so just a small little pivot that we had in the group, Tej and a couple of others that do represent investors, noticed that, in their angel network groups, there were entrepreneurs pitching, but they had to go one-off to each individual that might be interested. That's really hard on the entrepreneur. They have the same amount of time in the day as all of us. And so I know something that Plains Angels moved to is actually starting a rolling fund. And this is a big win for entrepreneurs because all of a sudden now there's 20 people that can be interested in making that one investment into a startup. And so that's something that I think with MIT, it's helped us realize when we kind of do look at all the assets in the community, what can we just kind of dial in and just turn up a little bit that will make things easier. But another thing too is that we need to think 10x and bigger. So sometimes when you are in the environment of something like Cambridge, you see things a little bigger. And another area that we're looking at on the team is, how do we create $100 million ag tech fund? It would be huge for the Midwest. It would be great for startups, but there's a lot of activity that actually goes around building those funds and then, implementing those investments. And so, so that's something that, I would even charge this room if you want to be part of. It's just one of the examples that we are working on, but to kind of think bigger in those scales when we can try to grow innovation here. So hopefully that answered your question.
I think I've seen something interesting in Omaha, and I think I brought it up to the team as well. I think it's worth looking at the framework that they're using. I think they're using a framework that was designed by Aspen Institute. I could be wrong, but Omaha has something, and I think we're to visit Omaha at some point or talk to Omaha about that. But we're on the right track. We just need each and every one of you to say yes and help us support this ecosystem.
Awesome. Well, that kind of helps segue into our next question. I wanted to kind of open it up to hear what challenges you all see in your own roles. So Diana kind of started that off. And maybe Eric, could we start with you and see just what overall challenges do you see or think areas like Diana said where we need to dial in to make sure that we're moving forward as a state?
Eric, it sounds to me like you just need to give out more money.
Yeah, that brings up one of maybe a couple of challenges. So to build on the way Diana framed that, having an investor network is much better for entrepreneurs, but it's also much better for investors because it's pretty demoralizing to be one of like 8 people in a room and 3 people are maybe interested a little bit and 5 are not at all. You need a bigger group of people. So I'm excited about kind of where that goes. But to your point, I mean, that is part of the issue. Like the default position of an investor is to say no. We invest in something like 3 to 5% of the companies we bump into, and that's probably high because we only invest in Iowa companies, so our pool is kind of limited. So it's really important that there be lots of opportunities for entrepreneurs to find investors that match with them, both by stage, by industry, by focus, priority, whatever, and happens to be the right time in the fund's history and happens to be they like your business. Like this filter, the Swiss cheese is layers of Swiss cheese you have to jump through. The odds of getting through are pretty low for most entrepreneurs. So more investor opportunities and different investors focusing on different parts, different sectors would be a huge advantage.
I wanted to ask a follow-up because I know you had talked about ISA Ventures, or maybe not you, but someone had told me that ISA Ventures was working to build an investor network outside of the state and kind of bringing outside of state investors to like ENTREFEST. Can you talk a little bit about why you're embarking on that and how that effort is going?
Sure. Yeah. So the idea was to build relationships with lots of investors outside the state of Iowa, because as adorable as the $22 million that we have is, it doesn't go that far. And part of it was to realize that we're not the best investor for certain kinds of companies. And so last year at ENTREFEST, we built an event specifically bringing outside the state investors in to look at opportunities. They were almost all Iowa. I think they were all Iowa companies. And we got 2 term sheet lead investors out of that. Both of them were outside the state. We invested in both. We just weren't the lead, which was perfect because in neither of those were we the right one for them, right? We're happy to invest. We're just not the one who should lead the deal. And building those relationships is a really big part of it. So we're continuing to build that network.
Awesome. Thank you. Nancy, are there any other challenges in the ecosystem that you would point out and from your perspective?
Yeah, I think the biggest challenge is who we see as an entrepreneur, as an innovator. Sometimes, especially for females, it's if somebody comes to you and says they're building something, you're like, what is that, right? But if Elon Musk tweets about it, we're all like jumpy and excited. I think we need to change the narrative of who is an innovator or an entrepreneur so that we could support them equally. Because I have met a lot of people who are innovating, and unfortunately, some of them are leaving the state to actually go where they feel welcomed and accepted and they could get support. So that'll be one challenge. Another thing would be we need to have more programs to support entrepreneurs, especially outside the colleges. It's great. I am such a fan of the John Papa John Centers. Challenge is it's only tied to the school. How do we take what we already have and have people outside colleges participating in those?
Awesome. Lisa?
I think one of the big ones that I see that hasn't been mentioned is literally the workforce side, because we need to have better talent retention strategies. And another thing is, you have some groups looking towards, okay, what program could the state put out, or what program do we need to put out locally? Instead, let's figure out, okay, let's talk to the pathway and figure out how we can move people along that pathway more quickly and at a lower cost, but the path to success is what we're looking for those employees. An example I have, and I'm going to quote a program that I'm not 100% working with all the time. Okay, so the Last Dollar Scholar, that is a program that has a list of here are the programs through a junior college, and here are some of the things we can do to help pay for it. And this year, there were some programs that dropped off. But why don't we look at a model that helps folks into the college sector to get some of that education that maybe is outside of the traditional paths that we look at, and figure out then how we can get to the next step to get them into your companies. And I think just having different people at the table is a start.
Yeah, Ellen.
I'd say one of the challenges that our startups have is that the rules have changed over the past year. So many of them entered their venture with the mindset of grow, grow, grow. And that was all around top line growth. Now they're hearing, okay, no, we don't care so much about growth. Where's your bottom line? And that's a very difficult business model to switch on a dime. So we've had many startups who have either delayed funding or are kind of hoping to wait this period out. And I think that that's a great opportunity for Iowa. We hear a lot about East Coast money, West Coast money, and how they differ. And Iowa and the Midwest actually has an opportunity to create Midwest money that might be a little less reactionary, a little bit more supportive in many ways.
Mm-hmm.
Eric, Diane, I want to make sure to give you a chance too, but just a quick follow-up there. That dynamic that Ellen was referencing, I'm curious if you could talk about what has switched in that space when it comes to investing, and perhaps what companies are looking at right now in terms of the growth versus the profitability margin.
Yeah, if I could just point out the absurdity of the way of that whole situation, right? The way you framed it is accurate. They're responding to the way that their investors are pressuring them to perform. It's either grow, grow, grow at all costs. I don't care about the bottom line. Oh, actually, the economy just changed. Never mind. Would you mind being profitable? And they're responding to investors, which is weird. That's what's driving that behavior. I think to the point, I think Iowa is a little gentler and less oscillating in that we're a little more on it'd be really cool to be profitable. So, let's maybe find some, 80% sort of lane to play in. But it is changing. But I feel like Iowa has maybe not had quite as much on the edge behavior.
Diana, back to you then.
Yeah, well, even to that point, last week we hosted a Raising Capital seminar for startups. It's a full day boot camp that the partnership partners with many in the community. And we did talk about investor readiness now versus investor readiness in 2020. And so it does typically, it's what Ellen did say, instead of growth metrics, it's now your financial bottom line metrics. And it does set up Iowa well, because we always have, I think, been building businesses that are around those certain metrics and building steady, impactful businesses. Something I will say, though, kind of going back to the question of, what's a challenge? It is, yes, we have, Kaufman, they put out a study every year and it measures the new rate of entrepreneurs. And Iowa, we don't perform as high even around our Midwest states. And so that metric is just showing, what's the percentage of the population that is starting new businesses. And so that's something that I really think is a challenge for us. And something that I've seen that has worked, and it was actually part of the journey, is a lot of times when you're in startups, for example, I got to work at Dwala right when Dwala was just kind of coming up. They had raised $1 million and then they went on to raise a larger amount after that. And what happened is even, throughout the last 10 years, We call this group Dwala alums. And there's so many startups actually that have been born from a lot of those team members that were actually at Dwala. The same thing with Workiva and that story in Ames, which was engineering animation. And a lot of those people then went off to found companies or maybe participate in corporate venture or participate in just supporting entrepreneurs. And so I was just talking to someone yesterday, actually someone that used to work at RoboFlow, and he was out doing a new startup. And that's even an early stage startup here in Des Moines. And so that's something I kind of think about is that it's really cool because a lot of times in those environments when you're at a startup, you are taking a risk and you don't know necessarily the pathway of where that business is going to go. But those people really do start to kind of multiply when we're thinking about how do we grow more entrepreneurs. So that's just something that I've seen that's firsthand kind of really cool.
Yeah, community. And Lisa mentioned workforce and the talent needs. So can we kind of talk about how that all ties in, like with the need for new entrepreneurs? Obviously, not everyone who comes to Iowa is going to be an entrepreneur, but how do we marry those two, or like address both issues? Are there anyone's that welcome to answer that?
I'll jump in. I think the first thing is we have to think of things differently. You have to shake your brain a little bit. The traditional path doesn't work. So think about everyone in this room. If you had to go back to your younger self and say, here is what your career path is going to look like. We don't have that traditional career path. And I see some of you saying, yeah. So we need to teach the generation, the young folks sitting there who, by the way, shout out, you did a fabulous job coming up to me saying, hey, I want to meet you. That is what we need. And that's what we need to support. And I think telling the story, we do a horrible job telling our story and telling the entrepreneur story because it's more than the entrepreneur business. It's about that path to get to be a part of that business. How can I do that? How can that door open for me? And what do I need to do to get in that door? Is it a piece of paper? Is it an understanding of the industry? What is it? But then teaching people, here's how it can happen. And I think that will open up a lot of doors and it will get us thinking differently about addressing some of those workforce solutions.
I'm going to say something. We have a huge problem and I think it's either the New York Times or somebody highlighted this. There's a huge chronic absence issue in the schools. Des Moines itself, we're looking at 53% of students not going to school. Okay. When we're looking at Black kids, we're looking at 63, I think it's between 63 to 67%. So when you're looking at who is your workforce, you have to care about education and who and where those kids are. We're losing an opportunity and all this expedited because of COVID. It's beyond us. We have to, if there's ever been a moment to care, I think this is the moment to care and double down and to think about who you're going to hire. Do they have the skills? Because if kids are not going to school, then we do know we have a problem. So the workforce problem has to be one that we have to really embrace and talk about. Also introducing work-based learning. I really think companies have to be open to having young people going into their spaces. I really celebrate the companies we work with because they're open to that. And it's a challenge for all of us. College interns, we're talking about internship. We should have summer and fall internship. I care about this issue very much, so I'm not going to say much, but we do have some challenges, but it just calls on to us to open our mind and say young people deserve to be supported today.
All right. Ellen, I wanted to ask you about specifically at Holmes Murphy with Broker Tech Ventures kind of being within, a separate thing, but that kind of exists within Holmes Murphy, and how can corporate companies have a role in maybe supporting and bringing new entrepreneurs and maybe just bringing workforce in general by kind of fostering that innovation and making that sort of an attractor at their companies?
Oh, there's so many ways. I think to start just always looking for opportunities to improve your business and make your clients' life better. And then surrounding that with, as we talk about developing the workforce, and internships are a great way to get people, to get the students involved and to stay in Iowa. So that's something we strongly encourage. But also when I first started with Broker Tech Ventures, I was expecting a lot of the new ideas to come from a younger generation. But what I found is that the entrepreneurs really to be an entrepreneur actually takes exactly what Jeff described. It takes some tenacity, it takes some grit, it takes things that people learn in business over a period of time, patience. And most of our startups are really, the entrepreneurs that we see are not necessarily technology experts. They rarely are. They are people who know how to build a business and can do that well and surround themselves with great talent.
Yeah. And how does having that relationship with Broker Tech Ventures affect how Holmes Murphy operates and affects how you think about innovation? Because some innovation can come naturally, like from entrepreneurs, it can be an idea, and sometimes it has to be intentional and you have to know where you're going in order to be able to come up with new ideas. So how does that work for you all at Holmes Murphy?
That's always a balance because it can't be the new idea of the day. As I mentioned, it needs to be an idea that you believe in and that you're willing to stick with. So that would be first and foremost, I would say.
Yeah. All right. I would like to ask, since we've addressed a couple of challenges, kind of get a view of where you all see opportunities or for Iowa, and where maybe we can turn some of the challenges we have into new opportunities and progress. So any thoughts? Anyone want to jump in on where you see the top opportunities for Iowa? You guys said you were going to disagree. Like, I'm still waiting for that.
We're trying very hard not to disagree. No, I think one of the things that we do well is we look at it differently. We operate many of the things many of the resources as a small business. We are more agile. We're able to adapt. We take that feedback and we don't always need the credit. I can reach out to Dan and say, okay, you know what? This one's over my head. What do we do? What resources do you have so we can keep them here? We can look at ways to have them help other businesses, other inventors. And I think we do a really good job of saying, you know what, I need your help. So here's what I need. Help me find the right people. And I always joke when I travel and talk to some of my colleagues that Iowa is the biggest small town out there. The 6 degrees of separation is not here. It's only a few. And even from this panel, I've already written down 2 things that I can follow up with Nancy on to see if we can get some of these programs in the rural areas and to look at what can we do next. And I'm sure there are other people. So I think that's what we do well, is we look for ways to help others and help to advance these programs, these projects, to create a more sustainable ecosystem for Iowa.
Absolutely. Anyone else like to add anything?
I think there's a lot of opportunities to explore models being innovative elsewhere. I know the MIT program is doing that by definition in Massachusetts and Australia, apparently. Is that right? But our team goes out and visits other communities around the United States as well. And there's a lot of really cool stuff. I mean, everybody's getting better, creating new programs, new ways to invest, new ways to retain and train and keep new talent and build new talent pipelines. And Iowa's getting better too. The problem is we're maybe not getting better as fast as we all want to. So frankly, we need to go out and steal ideas from elsewhere. And one of the ideas that I know is being explored by several people is kind of collapsing some of the elements into one entity. So right now you go to investors for capital, you go find hopefully really smart people, probably pillaging them from your companies, to be honest, and all the other resources and mentorship that you need. And you have to go find each one of those separately and independently. There's some models out there. There's a group in Indianapolis called High Alpha that's doing some really cool work, kind of coalescing all that into one entity that might make things a little bit easier and faster. So just seeing what's out there. You mentioned Omaha doing really cool things. And, I always want Iowa to be better than Nebraska in particular. So if we've got some room to make up, we need to work on that.
We need to go there.
Well, I'll actually say something I really have enjoyed is that Omaha, St. Louis, Kansas City, they've been part of this program. And we've actually seen it more beneficial to work together versus trying to compete on state lines. And why that helps entrepreneurs in the room is because now all of a sudden, you know, maybe we just had 3 VC institutions here that can lead or co-invest, but that opens the door to referrals outside. And it's really important for people in this room then to know who are those people that we can connect them, that maybe they're 2 hours away or 5 hours away to St. Louis, or maybe there is an industry partner there that maybe Iowa does not have. Kansas City seems to be focusing a lot on biologics. So what are ways we can partner there? St. Louis is focusing right now on geospatial and of course, ag tech as well. And so it's kind of knowing now that each of our states, we're trying to kind of course, lift our strengths up. But it's helpful for entrepreneurs to actually get access to what might be some very important partnerships in the future. So sometimes I think actually it's better to work with Nebraska. It's better to work with Minnesota, Chicago, even our coastal partners too, just because it really does actually help the entrepreneur at the end of the day.
Events like today really help raise awareness of what we do have in Iowa. And I think we have a lot more than we speak about. You know, at Broker Tech Ventures, as Eric mentioned, there's a lot more than just starting with capital as an example. When we were first starting Broker Tech Ventures, one of our partners had decided we're going to lead with capital. And we stepped back and said, the accelerator, so a program for our startups to attend that we could help introduce them to insurance carriers, brokers, and test and refine the viability of their product was a key component of making the funds then ultimately come to life through our partners at Manchester Story. So knowing what's all available in Iowa is a missed opportunity today. And I'm not sure how we bring that together and promote it, because I do believe we have a lot of the things that are seen throughout the United States. And in typical Iowa style, probably don't tell that as much as we could.
Well, I've always found it interesting when looking at the ecosystem model, because you have like kind of those core stakeholder groups, and that can make things seem really siloed when really has to be a group effort and everything has to work. It has to be interconnected. So, you know, Diana, maybe you have some insight on this from MIT, but like, what does it mean to really align people along like the same similar goals, at least like everyone in different areas, there might be some variation, but how do you actually get that alignment to happen? I mean, obviously there has to be the connection, but any ideas on like that overall strategy?
Mm-hmm. Honestly, it's first inviting people. So I know sometimes like even in corporations or existing businesses, they talk about, you know, how can we, you know, include startups as part of our journey? And honestly, the first thing is invite the entrepreneur to the room and to be part of that. And the same thing goes for all the other stakeholder groups. So I think it's actually just getting together and maybe on a frequent basis, if that's what some of your roles can support. And that's, I think, going to be the first step. But certainly there are different priorities for each stakeholder and interest. And so it's just making sure that we can all speak the same language, I think.
Yeah. Lisa, do you have any thoughts, like being kind of a state director, having that perspective?
A big thing we try to embrace also is no wrong door, that no matter where someone comes in, help them. If they come to you, but you're not that right person, then help them and walk them to that next person that they need to connect with. I think that is what will help take some of the apprehension out. That will also help accelerate the path for some of those entrepreneurs, the no wrong door.
Eric?
I think you said the word pathways before. Somebody did. And I think that's a really important one for us to figure out, because right now the pathways have lots of holes and people don't even understand which pathway they're on. People think, oh, I need to go talk to a venture capitalist because I need $20,000 to start a business. And it's like, wait, no, I think you're maybe in the wrong place. And trying to help people figure out even what those different pathways, articulating what they are in one place and the resources that maybe exist and don't exist along those pathways, and where we can work together to say, well, there's a gap right here. It's step 3 of pathway 2. Like nobody has that problem today or owns that problem. And maybe we should fix that.
That needs to be fixed. Mm-hmm. All right. Got a little fan action going on here, so I'm just managing that. I should have stapled. Let's see here. Any thoughts on how one perspective we maybe don't have fully represented on the panel today is government? Are there any thoughts you all would like to share on how state and local government can play a role in supporting the ecosystem as a whole and kind of being a driver in some ways to move Iowa forward? Go for it.
I mean, broadly speaking, Iowa has an incredible array of programs for entrepreneurs, funding sources for some of them on some of the pathways. And I know compared to some of the neighboring states, they're really comprehensive and we use them all the time. I mean, they're fantastic. I think stepping way back, though, the macro issue that concerns me is, we live in a state that has basically flat population growth and has for couple decades, I think. And yet hopefully all of you are growing and hiring people. And by definition, startups are growing or they're dead. So we're all trying to hire the same people. And so, I'm not sure what the answer is. And I don't want to turn it into a political conversation, but at the moment we have a state that continues to be flat population growth. And until people want to be here and want to move here and ideally grow here, this is a lot of hard work that is constrained by just simple numerical number of people out there.
Any other thoughts?
I would throw this out there, and this is my hat as SBDC, Small Business Development Centers, is to look at what would help that innovator, what literally would help. And then sharing that information to help put together, whether it's a program from the private sector or the public sector, we need to look at, there's not just incentive plans from the public sector, but maybe there's more incentive plans from the private sector. And how can we have more of those public-private partnerships to maybe pave the way? But getting that information, hey, you know what? Here's a pain point. We all do this. We know our customers have a pain point and we solve it. So there is a pain point for those innovators. How can we solve it? And figuring out how we can put something out there to accelerate the path.
Yeah, I would just add, I think a lot of times government, their role can be being the champion and being the loudest voice, because that's really what they are trying to do, especially as you think about Iowa. But as it comes to the entrepreneurs and how we could connect those dots a little bit more, if it's outside the great funding that we have, is actually telling the stories of entrepreneurs. And I know our state does this, but I think we should actually do it more, is just showing that entrepreneurship, it happens here. It's something I know we just launched at the Greater Des Moines Partnership, is a campaign that actually speaks mostly to our local entrepreneurs, that they know that entrepreneurs are building businesses here and that they too can do it. But I think as we think about Iowa, and going back to Eric's point, how do we attract people? Just last week, we had someone from San Diego come to our Raising Capital seminar, thanks to Alex Taylor as a referral. And essentially, he was looking at having his headquarters be in Des Moines or in Iowa. And that's, I think it does happen, but I think we do need to actually kind of lift that up as we're talking about entrepreneurship and how do we attract more entrepreneurs here, whether that's growing entrepreneurs that already live in Iowa, but also how do we maybe take some that are interested in moving here? So,
yeah. We're getting to the end of our time here. And so I think now we'll go ahead and go with our last question. And then Chris will give you a little bit of time to think about your final thought. So you've been doing it already, which is wonderful, but we'd like to kind of have you leave the group with how we continue to build momentum, like Diana started us off with, and saying that we need to continue building that. What action steps would you like to see Iowa start taking that would move us toward, it's a continuous journey, but what would start moving us forward, and where do you want to see Iowa going? There's no end point, but there is a vision. So kind of give us a taste of what you all think of that. Ellen, can we start with you?
People can't support what they are unaware of. So I think our biggest opportunity is really, how do we draw these pieces together, the great pieces that we have within Iowa, and let them be known. So that, I think, is just our greatest opportunity.
I would say So if you're an entrepreneur in the room, which I know we have some here, really think about growing your business. I think that is going to help the state and supporting entrepreneurship. It will just amplify and multiply. I also think if you're not an entrepreneur, but you support entrepreneurship and innovation, plug into the community. There are a number of events like this and others that happen weekly. And there's many ways to kind of plug in, just meeting people. And I think lastly, meeting entrepreneurs. So if you might be in a corporate role, but you're trying to understand an innovation problem, or maybe you have an interesting problem you're looking at, try to meet with entrepreneurs to just kind of learn that knowledge, learn the technologies that are changing every day. And I think that will actually help Iowa as we kind of change our mindset so that we can be oriented and ready for a lot of the different technologies that are happening. So,
Diana, I'm curious, you mentioned the think bigger and think 10X. And I'm curious if there's any ideas out there that you've seen that you go, man, I wish we could pursue that, something that's in that vein.
I would have to think about that, like from a startup point of view, or
not necessarily a business. I'm not going to make you give your great startup idea away here today, but as maybe a program or a way for us to think bigger as a community.
Okay.
You mentioned the $100 million ag tech fund.
If anyone wants to invest in the ag tech fund, I know someone you can call, not myself, but yeah, I think in general, it's kind of really getting our minds to kind of be ready for what's coming. I know we talk a lot about ChatGPT and AI and machine learning and how all these things are changing. But I would just say that we have to maybe personally kind of get comfortable with being uncomfortable. Just because, it is so easy to do here in Iowa. We can get comfortable. We have really great paying jobs, thanks to many of you out there. But we do need to kind of figure out, how do we keep up with the rest of the world as things do change? So I don't know if that answered it, but thinking bigger is great. So,
Lisa.
I think we need to have business owners look at the career pathway differently. I know in just some challenges that some businesses have had hiring people, the requirements there were so high. And the requirements didn't really fit what the job needed anymore. But you know what? Those were the requirements from 20 years ago. So think differently on how you can have that career path for somebody coming in, and tap into what Nancy is doing, but then also know what Eric is doing and how you can maybe tap into some of that technology. How can you get involved? Be on some of those boards. How can you invest? Be part of that next solution. And, we talked about the no wrong door, but also to tell the story. We've said it several times, but we don't tell our story. And if we don't tell our story, nobody else will. So figure out a way to tell our story, to talk about innovation, how this is the first place, and so that we can stop talking about brain drain and we can start talking about the influx of people coming in to support of our ecosystem.
I think Iowa has great young people, and I've been fortunate to meet a lot of them. That's what I do every day because I appreciate young people, be it from Waterloo Career Center. I see Joy and Kyle here. The one thing I'm going to say is we're living in a very interesting environment right now, especially because we know work is going to shift. And what we thought was going to shift by 2030, probably it's going to shift sooner than later, courtesy of course, ChatGPT and many other things. So we used to say, okay, automation is going to take this level of jobs. Now we're talking about AI. So we know some jobs are going to go. What young people deserve is better education that prepares them for future of work. And we have to highlight the skills that they need. Those will be skills like adaptability, critical thought. We also know a lot of our, baby boomers are going to be retiring. Gen Zs are right there, but are we guiding them correctly so that they can enter the workforce? So personally, I am for the young people. I am here to say we need to train them sooner, early, have them be in your spaces. If you have an office, allow a young person as young as high school to come there. I really am here as a voice of young people, but yeah, thank you.
A couple of things. One would be building a bigger array of early stage funding sources. So imagine $20 million funds that are all at the top of the funnel, getting some early stage ideas started, because if we don't fund them there, they never get big enough to be interesting to later stage investors or to create jobs and growth and wealth in the state of Iowa. So we sort of strangle them before they even have a chance. The second would be creating more ways for founders to see more. We do a lot of dinners with our portfolio CEOs, and they talk to each other and say, well, here's how my board meeting went, and you've never even had a board meeting yet. So how do I do that? By definition, most of the founders in Iowa are first-time founders, and they just don't know what they don't know. And you can tell them what a board meeting feels like, but it's very different when another founder tells them what it went like. So creating experiences for them to be able to see those things. And then I think the third would be helping the younger entrepreneurs, particularly ones in college programs, to see deeper domain expertise as an important thing to get before they start a company on average. A lot of times they come out guns blazing thinking, I'm going to be an entrepreneur, and I really don't know anything about any deep domain or where the real problems that are big enough to throw my life at to solve are. And so they kind of start businesses. We get a lot of applications for our accelerator program that are frankly trivial. That doesn't make it a bad idea. It's great if your idea isn't very big, but if you're 22, you could throw your life at anything. Let's think of something really, really incredible that could change the world and focus them that way. So.
Well, we're just about out of time, but I'm going to give you a chance to think about a closing final thought. And while we do, just a couple things to let everybody here know about. So we've got a couple upcoming events. If you enjoyed today's event, we've got an event that's virtual. It's going to be held on Thursday this week. It's part of our Envision Iowa Think Tank series. A lot of the themes that we'll address in that program will touch on some of the topics that directly infuse with innovation here. The first one's going to be talking about people and culture. Debbie Durham is going to be our keynote speaker for that. We break out into breakout rooms in that, so you get to interact with people from across the state and hear about some of the things that are underway. We're also going to be giving a little bit of a preview. We do a statewide research project with Baton Global, and that gives us some insight into how people across the state are thinking about the economic future here in Iowa. So we'd encourage you to join us there. We're also going to be in person at our 2023 Women of Influence event, and you can help congratulate Lisa on Thursday, August 3rd at the Downtown Marriott. And on August 9th, we're going to be talking about manufacturing in the States, and which, of course, is an industry that's ripe for innovation and is currently enjoying a lot of innovation at this point. So, and lastly, on August 22nd, we'll have the second of our Innovation Iowa Think Tanks. It's also time to highlight our 2023 Innovation Iowa magazine. For those unfamiliar with the publication, it was an effort started more than 8 years ago to help elevate, lift up, and share the innovative spirit that has fueled Iowa's businesses and sectors through across the state. So when you're hearing people talking today about we need to make sure that we're highlighting the great things that are happening, there's not a better product in the state that's going to help do exactly that. All of the stories are, of course, in the magazine. They're also online at innovationia.com. I'd encourage everybody to find a story, something that maybe resonates with you, share that, help get that out across your social platforms, spread that beyond the market here so that we're helping people see the great things that are happening in the state. The magazine is packed with more than 15 stories highlighting innovation from across the state. And I'm excited for you, of course, to dive into that. I want to take a moment, though, to thank the newsroom and special projects editor, Emily Barsky. Oh, boy, she just got married and I messed this up already. So Emily Wood. So thank you, Emily, for her hard work planning the pub. And another name change, Sarah Dean, who also recently got married, for her reporting and planning along the entire newsroom and along with the entire newsroom for contributing. In addition, I want to thank our creative team, Lauren Bird, Kate Meyer, and Patrick Hareteam for their fantastic design work, and the advertising team for helping power the publication. And of course, the publication wouldn't be possible without the support of our sponsors, the aforementioned Wellaby, Corteva, NIMaster, and John Deere, one of our chapter sponsors. The physical publication is going to be in the business record this week. Of course, you can find the stories online, and you can take a copy with you as you go today. All right, panelists, it's time for your final takeaways. We'll go ahead and start all the way down the end again. Helen.
Congratulations to the awardees and thank you to the Business Record and the sponsors. I'm from Dyersville, so I'll end it with build it and they will come. And I believe we have a lot of the components, so let's get the word out there and keep people here and bring more in.
That's well said. Yeah, Iowa, I know we're great at growing things. So, I mean, going back to my gardening analogy, we have great soil for entrepreneurs to grow businesses. We just need more seeds. So if you guys are thinking of an idea, maybe, trying something you've never done before, please reach out. We are totally happy to have coffee with you and hopefully guide you to the right resources as you're going through that pathway.
I would encourage you to really embrace risk taking. Many of you already do, but then show that it's okay to do. And the next thing is to really foster those new folks that are on your team, and also those ones that are just interested. Find that pathway, help them out, and also tell the story. Celebrate the success and tell the story, because if we don't, nobody else will. And we need to tell the story so we can educate others and really make it a fun place.
I'm going to start with a couple of years ago during Rachel, I found myself going there every day, thanks to Eric, who had to bring me ice. And we were helping a lot of families that were sleeping outside. We advocated for them and came back to Des Moines. I got a call from this amazing man. And this man, he's not here today, but I want to give a tribute for what he has done for me. And not me, but I might cry, but allow me to say this. I got a call from Papa John, and I thought it was a prank call. And so I was like, I'm not going to go. Who knows? And the next day I called his secretary and it's like, he was waiting to talk to you yesterday. He was here all day waiting for you. And I'm like, me? So I showed up at his office. And the first thing I asked, he said, first of all, you're working too hard. You need to go sleep. And I'm like, how did you know that? And I asked a ton of questions. So the first thing is like, why are you investing in me? There are things he told me that I cannot say here today. But before he passed, he would always call me and ask me, how are the kids doing? The last event that he had, which was a public event with the Papa John Center, he's like, bring as many kids as you can bring. Because he believed in one fundamental thing, the young people need to be supported. And because of him, I honor that man and in the belief of young people. And if there's anything I'm going to tell you today is young people are our future. The same chance he took on me, please take it on any other young person you see. Don't give up on them. And yes, I'm actually quite honored to have built in Iowa when I retire. I hope my story will be lived through the young people. Thank you.
Should have let you go last. Wow. It was awesome. Somewhat of a similar theme. I remember about a decade ago talking with some of in Cedar Rapids, sort of the powers that be. And their comment to me was, where's the next generation of leaders? Like, we're tired. Like, we were, this was mostly 60s, 70s folks, the people who make lots of the decisions in town. I'm like, dude, I'm sitting right here. But I was 30 and trying to figure it out. But like what I've observed in the decade since then is how many leaders are evolving and building and growing. And there are some incredible leaders out there doing incredible work all across this state. And so depending on how you see yourself as that group of up and comers or the group that's looking for those up and comers, find them, back them. That's exactly where I was going to. Yeah. So well said.
Okay. Great.
Well, thank you, panelists, and thank you to our presenting sponsor again, Wellaby, NIMASTER, and Corteva today. And of course, to our award honorees, congratulations again. Sarah Dean, thank you for putting together a great panel today. Can we give a big round of applause for today's panel? We're here to help businesses do business better, and innovation is a key part of that mission. If I or our team can ever be any help of you, if you've got a story to share, please do reach out Sarah's way. She's always looking for great stories to share across our products or to somebody in our newsroom. We're here to help. Our doors are always open and we're ready to help you. Have a great afternoon, and we'll see you soon.